Okay, we're going to talk about the harrowing truth of the Medomsley Detention Centre. Have you heard about this? It's all over the news at the moment. Even though this happened many years ago, now, decades later, the truth's come out. Yeah, more corruption, more naughty things have been happening, which I'm not bloody surprised. The good news is it's come out now, but the bad news is it should have come out at the time, but it didn't. What am I referring to? Well, the harrowing truth of the Medomsley Detention Centre. That's what we're looking at today. All right, folks, lean in, because today we're diving into something deeply upsetting, and it affects real people till to this day. We're talking about decades of abuse. A detention centre that should have protected young men, and it didn't. It was a system that failed them. So stay with me, because I want to know your comments. I want to know what you think, because we're going to get into this now and find out what's actually bloody going on, because you're going to find out starting right now.
Analyzing the news.
Flipping heck, honestly, you couldn't make this up. Every day something else is happening. It's no surprise in it. It's surprises in this world. If you look at that image just above me, that's actually the place that we're talking about. Now, it's an old picture because this happened several years ago, but now the truth is coming out finally. But it should have come out nearer the time, shouldn't it? But it didn't, because that's when the abuse was actually happening. And what abuse am I referring to? Well, we're going to find out. We're going to go into it. So just be aware that this will be upsetting. And yeah, I've warned you. But the thing is, we have to know the truth, don't we? To get to the bottom of it, to find out what's bloody going on in this world. Because it seems like years ago, there was a lot of corruption. Does that mean it doesn't exist anymore? Probably not. It still exists. It's just not in plain sight like it wasn't then. Right, let's have a chat. Let's find out what's going on. So, what's this place and this story that I'm referring to? Well, this facility is called the Medomsley Detention Centre, and it's in the county of Durham. It held young men aged 17 to 21 from 1961 till 1987. Now, the plot, physical and sexual abuse was happening by the staff that were that were meant to protect these people. Now, this was widespread, and the latest information that's come out is all come to fruition now, even though they knew it back then, but it was sort of undetected, or in other words, ignored. But not anymore, because it's all coming out. It's gathering momentum, and people are talking about it in the courts, which is good. So let me ask you a couple of questions before we continue, right? Because I want to know your feedback on everything. I want to know your thoughts on all of this as we go through it. So again, your comments do help a lot, because other people read them as well. Okay, it's not about me just reading the news to you. It's about you getting involved, engaging, and hearing your opinion, because your opinion matters. So my question to you, the first one is, before you heard about this place, did you imagine something this bad happening in the UK in a detention centre? Now pause for a minute and think about this. It's no conspiracy that, yes, now it's all coming out that these detention centres and things like that were full of abuse. These were places that people should have been protected, vulnerable people. And the opposite was happening. Is it still happening now? Well, we don't think it is. Oh, it's not going to happen now. But they thought that then. So we don't know. What are your thoughts? Before you heard about this place, did you think things like this happened back then in the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s? Well, it's easy to believe, isn't it? So who did this abuse happen to? And what kind of abuse was it? Well, we know it was sexual abuse. One named figure who we're going to look at, and this guy was, I'm going to get it up now so I can share my screen with you. This guy here, this is the article here, by the way. This is in Sky News. It says abuse ignored. The Medomsley Detention Centre, where the UK's most prolific sex offender attacked young men, reports find. Right, let me just get a picture of this guy, because that's him. See him there, eating a biscuit, whatever he's doing, the weirdo. Right, he is a main figure in all this, and this is one we should really focus our attention on for a minute, okay? His name is Neville Husband. But yeah, he wouldn't make a good husband, would he? What he did. Now, he is described as possibly the most prolific sex offender in British history. Now, the abuse wasn't just one thing. Trainees were physically assaulted as well, so staff, when arriving, and this was happening during baths. They would do strip searches, medical checks, working in the kitchens with the catering staff. They would be abused as well. The staff even punished people for being seen as weak or not addressing them properly. In other words, if you didn't bow down to these little wankers, then you'd be punished. Just egotistical little men, aren't they? Who had the power because they were put in a position of power just to rule over everyone else. Would that happen now? Does it happen now? We're going to go deeper into this story, but I want to know your comments as well, because you've got to share it with me, guys. How do you react when you hear the phrase, possibly the most prolific sex offender in British history? Now, this guy was in charge of the freaking place. What goes through your mind? How are these people able to get in positions of power when they're psychopaths? Do they just manipulate their way through? Or is it intentional? Like they know who it is. They know what he's going to do. That makes more sense. Because any other thing is illogical. It's lunacy. It doesn't make sense. It's bad, isn't it? And I think what's bad about it is because people who work with vulnerable people, they've usually got a caring nature. That's why they want to work with vulnerable people. But also you get the predators as well. They want to work with the vulnerable people because they're the predators. Why did this happen, and why does it keep happening? The culture, this centre operated under the short, sharp shock treatment idea. This is what their thing is. This was their operators. This is how their mind was thinking at the time. That included, let's put fear and violence because then we can reform the youth. And it's we know that anyway. That's what they used to do back in the 70s, 60s, 80s. That's what they did. But we'll put fear into them to change them. It's crazy, isn't it? For someone who's experienced trauma or they've done bad things, what type of support they need is love, understanding, empathy, counselling, therapeutic training, therapeutic approach, nurture. But what they were doing, they were violent, they were cruel and wicked. And the truth is, that's what they say, oh, we did it because we think this will work. But the reality is they were doing it because they were narcissistic. These people in control were narcissistic and they were put in a position that they can control people. And no one would say anything because they couldn't. Because who's going to listen to the people that are in these prisons, if you like? Because you ain't getting out, mate. Scary stuff. Very scary stuff. But again, this is life, isn't it? This is life. Let me put that detention centre up there so you can see it as well. Just so it gives you a vague idea. They blurred the pictures back of the kids. They're not kids now, but still, they don't want the pictures put on, do they? So the culture was a lot different then. That's what they say. They were short, sharp, and they did the shock treatment, and that was fair enough. So we'd put fear and violence into them to reform the youth and get them to change their ways. But it doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work. Leaders failed according to the investigation because people in charge either knew and did nothing, which they bloody knew and they didn't do anything, or didn't know because they weren't doing their job properly. Bull crap! You know when something's off. You know when people are being mistreated. It's like an open secret. But people don't say anything then because they thought, well, I don't want to get sacked. I'll just keep me own counsel. There wasn't any whistleblowers then. What happens there stays there. Now, you shouldn't do that. You've got to tell the truth. You've got to step out the box and say, wait a minute, I ain't having this, mate. You're not doing it. You're not getting away with it, because that's how they get away with it, isn't it? Because people don't say anything. People are scared. Don't be scared. Nothing to be scared of. Be scared of not telling the truth. But again, it was happening for years and years, and all these poor people, a lot of them are still alive now, they are literally traumatized. Traumatized because their whole life is completely changed due to what happened to them. Horrific, violent things that you don't expect to happen in England. Because England's a culture of Christian values. So you think, but there's some psychopaths here as well, sharing this island with us. And yes, they are English as well. So there's always one bad apple, isn't there? But the thing is, you've got to think of these people, haven't you? How many victims were there? What was the scale? Well, I'll tell you. There was actually more than this is recorded. So anything else you don't know about. But this is the figure. There was more than 2,000 former detainees came forward with testimonies. That means over 2,000 people have come now and said, listen, this happened to us. That's at least, they're just the people that come forward. When you're traumatized, you don't want to tell people. Remember that. Now, this wasn't a few bad apples. The report talks as a systematic, embedded, evil place. That these young people were literally being tortured. Let me ask you, does it shock you that this many people suffered over such a long time without proper investigation or intervention? Because nothing was investigated. They were just told to shut up. If anything, if they said anything, they'd get punished. Why? Who is literally running these places? Because we know it's not angels and good value moral people. It's narcissistic psychopaths. They should be in prison, locked away, not ruling and managing big facilities like that. Let me know. Tell me your thoughts in the comments. What's going on? Why is it happening? Because I don't know. Well, I've got an opinion, but we've all got opinions, haven't we? What's your opinion? What are your thoughts on it? So the real stories from the victims, let's have a look. Let me get it on. Let me share this screen with you again, because again, this is on Sky News now. Okay, so the real stories from the victims. Here's one example. I'll explain it to you. There was a trainee said that there was one time, this is his quote, he said, I could have been killed even all the time that was there. Every day and night was hell on earth. This is a quote. Some describe the baths as either scalding hot or freezing cold. They were forced to run until painkillers tapped in to the forehead dissolved. Now, what does that mean? Basically, it says these guys were in for things like shoplifting or non-payments of fines, non-violent major crimes. So when these people, the young lads, were being put in these detention centres, they weren't murderers and sex assaulters and all that. They were basically shoplifters, or they didn't pay a fine. Minor little things. And they got put in these detention centres, and then they were punished. Evil things happened to them. Yeah, when they got caught, they get put on this big machine. This horrible, horrible place. Let me see if I can get some images for you. There he is again. Look at him eating his biscuit. I don't want to say anything. But there's a sign there, the HM Detention Centre, Medomsley. I can't pronounce it. Is that right? There's another image which you've seen. Okay, there's the police. They're talking about it. This guy, he's a victim. We'll go into what he said. Actually, we'll go into it now. He's the one who said, I could have been killed. The violence I had done to me was terrible. I could have been killed in there, said Mr. Sampson. Every day and night was hell on earth for the full 9 weeks. With the abuse and obviously the sexual abuse, it totally ruined my life. It should never have happened in the first place, or it should have been stopped. The inquiry spoke to 79 victims and witnesses. Over 2,000 former inmates came forward to give their testimony to the Operation Seabrook, a police investigation that led to 5 retired officers being convicted of abuse in 2019. It's all there for you, mate. It's all there. These reports says that there was years of complaints, but no one listened to it. They just said, get lost. They were dismissed. No one's going to listen to them. It's like no one listens to a liar. So when these people, young people, were getting put in these detention centres for minor things, they were labelled as liars. Now, if no one's going to believe them, the staff could do anything they wanted to them, because no one's going to believe the criminals, are they? If I ask you, do you trust a criminal? You're not going to say, yeah, I do actually. Because in our brain, straight away, we think, nah, I ain't trusting them. They're a thief, they're a liar, they're a criminal. But you've got to understand, not all these people were. Some of them were just put in for not paying bloody fines, and they were only young. Between 17 and 21, you're not really a man, are you? Not this day and age. Now, the police knew about this, and there were threads of awareness from as early as 65. So they knew about it, because it's all been recorded, but nothing was done about it. Now, let me ask you, when institutions fail like this, why do you think, or who do you think is responsible? So when the systems and institutes fail, who's responsible? It's the manager. And who's responsible for the manager? The overseer, the circuit overseer, the local authority, the people who put them in place. You can't say that local authority or the powers that be just picked the wrong person. It doesn't work like that. This is the argument. The argument is, it doesn't work like that. That means the chances are, basically, it was intentional. Now, it's horrible to say that, but we've got to look at it. What do you think? Were they intentionally putting these horrible people in there so they could do things? Because that kind of makes sense. Because why weren't they investigated, sacked, and put in prison? Why was it just being allowed to operate for years and years and no one said anything? Nobody's that bloody ignorant. Nobody's that stupid. Do you feel that this kind of investigation is enough, or should there be more? I'm curious to know what you think, because if someone makes a report, it's got to be investigated, right? Now, it does get investigated more so this day and age, because the law's a lot more focused, which is a good thing, right? We're a lot more self-aware. But back then, no, none of that, mate. And who suffers? Who pays the price for that? Obviously, the people who live there. It's terrible. You can't even imagine, right? It's easy for us to sit here and watch YouTube videos and talk about it. But can you imagine what it's like, literally, for these people and how they were experiencing their reality, being abused, men being raped? And no one's going to listen to them. No one's going to believe them. And it happens over and over again. Because this isn't ancient history. It shows how power, silence and neglect can destroy lives, and it will. Because if it could happen here in the UK and happen to children and kids in a state that cares, it could happen somewhere else again, unless we pay attention to what's bloody going on. Because hearing the voices of the survivors matters, and interacting with them and learning about their truth, that's how we get justice. Drop your thoughts. We can't ignore it. You can't ignore it, because you think, well, it didn't happen to me, mate, it happened to him, nothing to do with me. But these victims, they didn't know this was going to happen to them. They're just men like you and women just like you, humans like you. They didn't know. What do you think? How does this story change your view on detention centres or youth justice? How so? Drop your thoughts. If you listen to people who've been in prison and they go on these podcasts, they'll tell you. And they've reformed their life. They said, yeah, I was a bad person, I went to prison. I said, what's prison like? They always say the same thing. You are treated not even like an animal. Because I've got an animal, I've got a dog. I would never be cruel to him. Make sure he's fed, goes for walks, he's happy, and I'll watch his behaviour. And that's an animal. And you wouldn't treat an animal like that. But these prisoners, you get put in a cell, get crap food, living in a state of fear and anxiety, which is traumatic. You never do a comfortable stretch. And I understand prisoners aren't supposed to be comfortable because you're supposed to be punished. But most prisoners end up doing it. As soon as you come out of prison, they do another crime. They re-offend, don't they? The chances of someone re-offending is like 90%. They go in, they go out, they get, so it's not working, is it? So what do? They need some sort of therapy, like, so they can understand and manage their behaviours. What do you think? Years ago, if someone committed a crime, they'd hang you. In some countries, they still do it. But is that too severe? Understanding now that in life we have problems, don't we? We've all got problems. And we do things we regret. Should you be punished for it because you've done something that you regret? But if you regret it and you're remorseful and you want help, should we give people help? Well, the answer is, yeah, we bloody should, shouldn't we? We should help people. We should support people, because if we don't, the problem's just going to grow, get worse and continue. So yeah, it's all kicking off now with the abuse scandal that's happening. There's probably going to be some compensation, but what does money offer when you've just spent the last 20, 30 years of your life living in trauma? And if you've experienced trauma, you'll know. If you haven't, you won't know. But trauma, especially for someone to be assaulted physically and then you're not in control, that doesn't leave you. You don't just get over it and get on with your life. It's with you all the time. It changes your perception of reality. It changes the way you think about other people, how you engage in society, how you feel about yourself. You're just ruined. It's trauma. It's trauma. And the only way to escape it, what people do, is take drugs. Because they need to stop thinking, because they can't get this trauma out of the brain because they're consumed by it. So then they take drugs and then they get addicted, and then it's just all negative. It's all down, self-destruction. We know the game. We know the story. We know where it ends. It always ends in the same way. And it's sad. It shouldn't be like that. But what's the answer? What is the answer to it? Let me know in the comments. What could change? How could we do it? If we were going to create a system that, yes, there's people who do bad things and they can't be in society because it's not fair on everyone else, right? But what do we do? Because punishing someone isn't really helping, is it? That's not to say you should let them get away with it. No, you shouldn't. But there's serious criminals out there who do horrific things, then they should be punished, right? But there's people who are in dire straits, like someone who steals. You might think, oh, they're stealing, they're a thief. But you don't know that they've got no food in their cupboards, right? It's not always for drugs, or they're trying to feed their kids. Or someone is in a situation and they're upset, and then someone says the wrong thing at the wrong time to them. And they emotionally react, end up slapping someone. Oh, sorry, mate, I didn't mean to do that. I was just, don't mind, mate, you're going court. Now you're going to go to prison. Now, in the prison, you're going to be traumatized. Even though prisons aren't like they used to be, don't think for 1 minute that they're a bloody holiday camp, because they ain't. They are not a holiday camp. They're probably exactly the same. They just paint the walls a nicer colour, but it's still the same. But let me know if you've been into prison, if you experienced trauma, if you've been put in a situation that you don't feel like you're in control. How would that affect you? How does it affect you? If you were locked up 24 hours a day and someone could do what they want to you and you've got no physical control over it, and even if you try to speak to someone about it, no one's going to believe you because you've been tarred with the same brush. How would that affect you? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, guys, yeah, there's a lot more to the story, but basically, in a nutshell, horrific abuse for years and years, and it's all coming out now, and thank God it is. But it's a little too late, isn't it, mate? It's too late. It's too late. They're only bringing it out now because the people who are guilty are all freaking dead. So there's no justice, is there? They got away with it. And that is life, unfortunately. But it doesn't have to be that way. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Until next time, I'm sure there's going to be more negative news coming along your way. But until next time, thank you, and leave your comments. And thank you for sharing your thoughts in your comments, because I read them all and it's good. But until next time, take care. There's my phone now. I wonder who that is. Oh, I'll turn it off. That's my phone ringing. I don't know if you heard that. But anyway, until next time, guys, take care. Look after yourself. Be careful out there, because things aren't looking great at the moment. But you can change your reality. All you have to do is change your perception, and you'll be all right. Take care.